Hello students and welcome to the lecture. So students, as you can see here, that basically in this lecture we are going to start the new topic, and this topic is the schedule and tribal areas. Schedule and tribal areas, this is the topic that we are going to start. This topic is one of the most important topics for the competitive exams. Why? Because doesn't matter what exam you are going to do. Okay, this topic of schedule and tribal areas always remain in the news, always in the current affairs, and even the static questions regularly asked in the examination from this topic, because this is very sensitive and one of the most important topic since has been the independence. All right, so this is what we are going to start, the schedule and the tribals. And basically you can say under this particular series of the schedule and tribal areas, these all are the topics that we are going to see. The introduction part, the schedule areas in India, an overview of it, the criteria for identification of the schedule areas, okay, the constitutional provisions and the governance of the schedule areas, the concerns related to the schedule areas, the administration of schedule areas, the scheduled tribes, okay, the general concerns of the tribal community, addressing the challenges, significance of the indigenous communities, problems faced by the tribal groups, conclusion, and the administration of tribal areas. Okay, so these are the topics that we are going to start in this particular lecture. All right, so let's start with the first thing, that is our introduction. Like, what do we understand by the schedules? First, we will do in the sequence. First, we will cover the scheduled areas. Second, we will cover the tribal areas. Okay, first the schedule, second the tribal. So this is going to be our sequence that we are going to follow. Okay, so basically if we talk about it, if we take the introduction of the schedule once, then we can say the article 244, that is in the part 10. Okay, article 244 in the part 10 of the constitution basically envisages a special system of administration for the certain areas designated as the schedule areas and tribal areas. Okay, so this is also what we could conclude by the names. Okay, like if we are talking about these areas especially, all right, and these areas are not you can say designated as a normal territory, but they have been designated as a schedule in the tribal areas. So by this only we could conclude that there must be some special system of administration. There must be some special system of administration which is not in the same manner as we practice in the normal country. Okay, and this is only for the certain areas. And what are these areas? The areas which have been designated as a schedule and the tribal areas. Okay, so basically the fifth schedule of the Indian Constitution deals with the administration and controls of the scheduled areas and the scheduled tribes in any state except the 4 states of Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, and Mizoram. Okay, while the 6th schedule of the Constitution, on the other hand, deals with the administration of the tribal areas in the 4 non-eastern states, the state of Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, and Mizoram. All right, that's the thing. So here we have just read the lines. Now we are required to understand the meaning. So basically you can see that if we talk about the schedule areas, Schedule areas are those areas which, as per the Article 244 in the Part 10, are including in the schedules of the Constitution. And what schedules? The fifth and the sixth schedules. So here you can say that there is no single schedule that is dealing with the schedule areas. Okay, there are two schedules. So if there are two schedules, it means that the things will be different. In the fifth schedule, different things. Sixth schedule, different things. If the things would be the same, then why did we make the two schedules? That is a common thing. Okay. So if we will go by the fifth schedule, then if you read out this line carefully, you will conclude what contains in the fifth schedule. Fifth schedule of Constitution basically deals with the administration and the control. Administration and the control of schedule areas, also the scheduled tribes, in any state. Okay, it means that there are total 29 states in the country. In any of the state, basically the administration and the control could be constitutionally deal through the meaning of fifth schedule. Okay, that is going to be, but the exception has been granted to the four states: Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, and Mizoram. Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, and Mizoram. Okay, it means that except these four states, if any other state, it means 25 states, remaining 25 states, because 29 are there, the four state will be excluded, then the remaining will be 25. Except these four states, all rest of the 25 states, if they have any kind of schedule areas and scheduled tribes, then the administration and control would be as per the fifth schedule of the Constitution. So where does these, you can say, four states go? So these four states basically comes under the sixth schedule. The sixth schedule of the Constitution deals with the administration of the tribal areas, which are included in these four northeastern states of Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, and Mizoram. Got it? That's the thing. So if I give you one more additional point, then it is like this. Fifth schedule basically deals with the 9 Indian states, okay, that having the, you can say, population of scheduled areas and the scheduled tribes. Okay, but these 9 states are other than these 4 northeastern states. And these northeastern states are Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, and Mizoram. Okay, now I'm going to ask you a very simple question. The question is, we know the 7 sisters. 7 sisters is the, you can say, group name which is designated to the 7 northeastern states. Now you are required to tell me the name of those 7 northeastern states. For this, I will give you the 30 seconds and your time starts now. All right, the 10 seconds have been passed, last 20s are remaining. Okay, last 10 seconds. All right, the time's up. So these 7 states are Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Manipur, Tripura, Nagaland. Okay, again I'm repeating the names: Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Manipur, Tripura, and Nagaland. Okay, most of the time I have seen the students, they even include the Sikkim in them. Okay, Sikkim is the state of India, but Sikkim is not a part of 7 sisters. Because if you will include the Sikkim in the 7 sisters, they would become 8. And by the name you could conclude they were talking about the 7 sisters, then how we could make it 8. Right? So just remember these names, and please remember Sikkim is not the part of the 7 sisters. Okay, Sikkim is a separate state. All right. So that is the thing. And we know the, okay, the second question that I'm going to ask you is also related with this thing. Okay, the chicken neck or the Siliguri corridor. the chicken neck, or the Siliguri corridor is lie in transaction of which state? To answer this, you will have the 30 seconds. Okay. Please do not Google it. Just use your brain to answer it. Your time starts now. Just think about it. 10 seconds have been passed. Last 20 are remaining. Last 10 seconds. Okay. The time is going to be up. So the correct answer is Sikkim. In Sikkim, there lies the Siliguri corridor that is often known as the chicken neck. All right. Now let's move forward. So now we are going to talk about the definition and significance. Okay. First definition that is we are going to see is the definition of the schedule areas. Okay. Now most of us will counter. Now most of us will say in the previous one, the introduction we have taken, then why we are going to talk about the definition. If you look at here carefully, just look at this slide. Have you got any definition that is basically describing the schedule areas? No, we haven't get it. What we get the article, we get the part that is saying that the constitution basically envisages or will provide a special system of administration for the sustained areas. These are designated as a schedule areas and the tribal areas. Got it? That is what only we got. Okay. But we didn't get any proper definition that is totally describing the schedule areas and the tribal areas. Okay. So that's why we have to include the definition here. Okay. Definition and the significance. So basically, if we talk about it, so the schedule areas are the regions. Okay. The schedule areas are the regions that are designated under the 5th and the 6th schedules. Okay. Like the concept is very much similar to the schedule banks. Have you ever heard about them? Have you ever heard about the schedule banks? What do you mean by them? What are the significance of them? Have you ever heard about it? Okay. So now it's also the question for you. Okay. Just let us make us a question. The question is simple. What do you understand by the second schedule? Just tell me. This is for your extra knowledge in the terms of finance. Okay. So I was thinking about it and I will be also implementing it. Like we will not only cover the topic that we are discussing about. Whatsoever we will cut the key points and all, then we will use these key points and all, and then we will drive certain questions that are important from the examination point of view. So that will make us to covering the questions, to covering the syllabus from 360, and that will be known as our 360-degree approach. Got it? So the question is, what do you understand by the schedule banks? To answer this, you will have the 30 seconds and your time starts now. That is a question from the finance field and very easy question. All right. 10 seconds have been passed. Last 20 are remaining. Just think about it. Last 10 seconds. Okay, time's up. So basically, if we talk about the schedule banks, so the schedule banks are those banks which are mentioned in the second schedule of the BRA Act 1949. Okay, what is BRA Act? So BRA stands for the Banking Regulation Act 1949. Okay, so whatsoever banks are basically mentioned under the second schedule of this particular act, these banks are known as the schedule banks. Okay, similar thing is also applicable here. Like schedule areas are the areas which have been mentioned or which have been designated. which have been mentioned or which have been designated under the 5th and the 6th schedules of the Indian Constitution. Okay. So why? Sorry, because they are mentioning under the constitution schedules, that's why these are not the schedule areas. What are the significance? These areas having the significant population. Significant population means that they having the major chunk of the population of the scheduled tribes and are given the special provisions and autonomy to protect their interests and promote their development. Okay. So now the question you can say arises like, why do we need it? Why do we need to provide the special attention, the autonomy and all? Why we are doing it? So basically, if we talk about it, and even if we are covering this topic, then I think that the story is required to be covered first. That we must cover the story that is having the historical importance and also related with this thing. Okay, so let us go back to the Indian history, medieval and the ancient times. Okay, so when the India was developing a system of village, the settlements and the urban settlements, okay, so the two segment division came into the picture. The one segment was the civilized people. Those people who were living in the cities, they have their, you can say, things in the cities. Second one was the tribal peoples. Those peoples who were not living in the cities, okay, and were basically living in the, you can say, herds and all, and basically in the forest. All right, that was the thing. Then what happened? The civilized ones, the rulers, whatsoever, the governing bodies were there, they had a peace and harmony with the tribals. Okay, why? Because the tribal peoples were living in the forest. All right, what they usually did, they attacked the convoys of merchants, of armies, okay, of travelers, and they looted them. So basically, to avoid this kind of things, the kings and the rulers had made various peace pacts with the tribals. Okay, it means that the kings will give the protection to the tribals and also will pay time to time tributes to the tribals. And in respect of this, the tribals will not attack the convoys and even will serve the king whenever needed. Okay, that system was also continued in the medieval time, like the Delhi Sultanate, like the Mughal period, and other local Muslim sultanates. They also had the same system. Okay, they cared and they showed their respect towards the tribals people. Okay, they also made a various peace pacts with them. But when the Britishers came into the picture, the things got different. How? Because remember, when the Britishers came in India, basically they had the main motive of making the profit. They had heard about the country as India, like which had numerous opportunities in terms of trade, in terms of wealth and all. So basically what they were running after was making the profit. Okay. So when they came to India and they started capturing the Indian cities and established their rule, okay, then they were not in a mood to continue the treaties with the tribals as did by the Indian rulers. Okay. But when the tribals started attacking the British convoys and all, then this raised a problem in front of a British. But that was not only the one problem. Basically, the British relations with the tribals could be understood by the three dimensions. First, the fierce nature of the tribals, means the attacking of the British convoys and establishments. Second, using the forest resources, like forests were having the rich resources. Even today they are having the rich resources. So the Britishers wanted to use that resources, but for this they had to, you can say, come into the conflict with the tribals who were protecting the forest. And third was agriculture approach. Okay, when the Britishers came to India, they found that agriculture is basically the main occupation of the people, and the agriculture is also needed to the Britishers. Why? Because they were supplying the raw food from India to the Britain, and in Britain the food was consuming by the local Britannians, and Even the British factories were converting the raw food into the finished good and then selling it back to the India. So that was also important for them from the trade point of view. Okay. So these three dimensions were there. And the third dimension, agriculture dimension, means like the civilized division that came into the picture. That civilized division was already doing the agriculture. Okay, they were already doing the agriculture. But the tribals were still the hunters and gatherers. They were hunting the animals for their food. Even they were collecting the forest woods and all. And when the Britishers made several forest laws, okay, like reserve forest, okay, scheduled forest and all, when they made this type of laws, so basically they snatched the tribals' right to live in the forest. And these things basically, you can say, raised a line of conflict, or you can say series of conflicts between the tribals and the Britishers. And Britishers suppressed them brutally. Why? Because tribal peoples, however, they were well aware about the forest and all. Okay, but still the Britishers had a well-trained army. Okay, they had the well-trained weapons. Okay, so because of this, the tribals had to pay a huge price. And the some areas where the Britishers were not likely to replace the tribals. Why? Because the tribals were very much fearless. Okay, and due to this, the Britishers were facing losses. For example, if I give you example, so I will give you the example of Rajmahal Hills. Have you ever heard about it? In the Rajmahal Hills, the local Pahadiya tribes were living. Okay, and these tribes had, you can say, the practice to attacking the British convoys, the trade convoys, and all. And the repeating of this offense basically draw the British attention towards this area. Even the British forces try to eradicate the tribals from that area, but they only succeeded in the lower part of the Rajmahal Hills. Okay, in the lower or the ground parts, the British forces succeed to eradicate the Pahadi tribes, but on the upper part in the dense forest areas, the Pahadi tribes is still very powerful. And this time the Britishers did not want to go inside. Why? Because every time they tried to attack or launched an attack on the Pahadiyas, basically the Britishers were also paying a heavy prices. Okay, the Pahadiyas were destroying their military, destroying their forces, killing most of them, abducting most of them. Even their weapons were snatched and looted. Okay, and Britishers were not in the mood to continue this. Then what the Britishers did? The Britishers applied the brain, and then they brought the Santhals to that place. Santhals were also the, you can say, the tribal people, but the Santhals had the problem. They did not have any place to get settled down. They were on the move again and again. What we call them, Banjara, or the transitions. Okay, so basically what the Britishers did, Britishers supported the Santhals, or you can say Britishers persuaded the Santhals to attack on the Pahadiya tribes. The Britishers made Santhal offer like, you are required to attack the Pahadiyas, eradicate them from the area, and the area we will offer to you. Okay, the Santhals got agreed. In the fearless conflicts between the Santhals and the Pahadiyas, the Santhals emerged victorious. They eradicated the Pahadiyas from that area. Okay, and basically as the deal was finalized, the Britishers gave the area to the Santhals. Got it? But Britishers designated the area as Damin Eko. Damin Eko, you can search it on Google. But the Britishers applied the, you can say, various taxation policies or various forest policies and all on the Santhals. And the Santhals were not ready for it. Why? Because the Santhals were the tribal people. They were the tribal people, and tribal people draws most of their resources from the forest. And the British policies were restricting their access to the forest. And even the taxes, the high taxes. And not only the high taxes were the problem, but also the method of paying the taxes was a problem. And how it could be? Like the Britishers were not, you can say, continuing the practice of collecting the tax that was in India during the rules of princely states. Why? Because the princely state were collecting the taxes in form of produce, like 1/3 of the total produce and all. But the Britishers had applied the monetary economy. So they were asking for the cash. And on that time, the money circulation was not in the system. Still, the people were practicing the barter system. So the people did not have the sufficient cash to pay the taxes. So how the Santhals were dealing with it? Basically, the Santhals were moving towards the money lenders, the Sahukars and the Zamindars, okay, for taking a loan so that they could pay a taxes. And the loan they were getting, that loan was on the harsh conditions. And many Santhals were suppressed and were unable to pay the, you can say, the loan back. And due to this, many Santhals suffered a lot. And when these things basically, you can say, become so much worse, the Santhals launched an attack, or you can say organized and revolt against the British forces. But somehow the Britishers suppressed the revolt and killed nearly about 10,000 Santhals, okay, and cleared the area. So that story is not the single story. That story is not the single stories. There is all, or you can say, there has been various other kinds of incidents in the history that makes us worry about the tribal people. Even after the independence, when the India got independence, okay, so in Indian Constitution, there is an Article 19. Article 19 provides a provision of free movement. Like anyone could move any part of the territory. Anyone could reside in any part of the territory. Okay. The second thing is that when the India got independence, so basically India got divided into the two separate nations, the India and Pakistan. So many refugees were coming to the country, and these refugees were settled down on the various forest land that was previously under the tribal control. And even the first one means the freedom of movement and residing. These peoples were also moving the tribal areas, and the outsiders basically possessing a threat towards the local tribal identities. And even because the tribal people were living in the forest, so they were not in the mainstreams. So in the freedom struggle and all, tribal people helped the country in various movements, but they were not recognized that much. All right. So basically, after independence, to protect their interest and promote their development without altering their identity. It means that without forcing them and without, you can say, intentionally taking them into the mainstream, we are required to provide them the development in their own form. So they could achieve the development and also their identity could be protected. So that was the main aim, to designate some areas as the scheduled areas which having the significant population of the scheduled tribes. Okay. And we know fifth schedule covers the administration and the control of scheduled areas and the scheduled tribes in various states, total 9 states. Sixth schedule basically deals with the administration of scheduled tribes in the northeastern states of Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, and Mizoram. All right. So that is the thing. So students, basically in this lecture, we have finished till here. In the next lecture, we will continue from here. Till then, just revise the facts and figures that all we have discussed in this lecture. Be ready for the another lecture. With this note, let's end this lecture. And what we say thank you.